How's it get going?
Study session to order.
Yep.
We have 4 things on the agenda. The buildings and grounds, committee structure, business office, and athletic policy. Okay, we're rolling.
All right, so a little bit on buildings and grounds, just one little announcement before we start. So over next to the bus garage there, the city's tearing up that street, or at least the middle of it. So you'll see that we're parking our buses outside behind Franklin for about a month, maybe 6 weeks. In the meantime, though, Joel and Soft was one of the contractors on site, has volunteered to clean up the junior high site where there used to be playground equipment, the old junior high. There's a down the playground, so that'll be a lot smoother, because there's some concrete pillars and stuff there, and the guys are having their time mowing, so it'll look a lot better.
So they're gonna gratis that work then?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so anyway, we got a steam leak, like I mentioned before. If you look in the parking lot, you can see that coming out of a manhole, and basically what we're looking at is our boiler room is right here, and that steam that you saw coming out of the ground is right about here where that car is parked. There's a line that comes across here toward the old junior high. And right about here on this, there's a junction box. It splits, it goes to the junior high building, across to the bus garage, and then there's another one. And if you were up closer, you can see you can almost see the grass going that way. About 3 years ago, this section here burnt out and we had to have it replaced. Right now, this section here is done for and needs to be replaced. There is another section going there that probably Mr. Rutelis is going to go shortly. It was all put in about 1962. So anyway, we got a quote from JK Mechanical. Initially, they gave their initial quote that they gave us was for about $78,000, and there was a 5 to 6 week lead time on the pipe. They came back to us a couple days later and said they could manufacture the pipe, and they would only be about 7 to 10 days. So you can see that it dropped the price a little bit too, that they didn't have to order the pipe. What I'm looking for tonight, I guess, is just if anyone has opposition to me telling them to go ahead and order the pipe, and then on Monday you can approve the quote. I also, in the next page, I gave you what's left of that IRRB grant we were working on this summer. You can see that the wall up there at the Franklin, about what we spent there, the interior door locks. You can see that's the wireless, and they haven't been installed yet, but that's how much that's going to cost. All the sidewalk replacement that we did this summer was about $66,000. We got some exterior signs that should be here next week, pointing in the direction of where our entrances are. We did some light upgrades in the Franklin. We're going to upgrade the exterior locks on the Gilbert site so that they match what's here now. And we did some water fountain upgrades for a total of about $250. So you can see what we have left there, which isn't going to cover this, but we can get at least halfway there through a grant. And then I guess the rest of it we'll just have to cover. So, any thoughts on that?
No, on this bid from JK Mechanical, you have excavate, you're gonna do 180 feet of pipe now. Are you just doing 180 feet, you're talking about coming across and going up and going in?
Yeah,
Are you talking 180 feet of just linear feet of pipe, or are you talking, are we piece doing 50 feet here and 80 feet there?
The piece that they're going to replace is right here, from here to here.
That's 180 feet?
Yep.
Okay. So then, on there you have, they're gonna compact that with class 5, it's gonna be capped at class 5. Do you know what it would take to re-asphalt that and how wide that's gonna be, or, I mean, that's something.
At this point, I don't know.
Okay. right.
And there's also gonna be some sidewalk replacement, because they'll have to go through that bottom one there.
And this bid doesn't
That doesn't include the asphalt
include
replacement.
the asphalt
or the
replacement or
concrete.
anything.
Okay. And then you got the exclusions, you know, of course, the concrete and asphalt on the exclusion, bonds and permits. I wouldn't think you need a permit or anything for that, being it's the city of Eveleth, you know. But the question I'll ask is, we're not paying ARI 8% on
No,
this job.
we just called JK on this.
Okay, good, good.
They're pretty much the only ones that we have doing this stuff right now.
Okay,
I'm sure there are other companies
right.
south of here, but
You know, because money, you know, I mean, money, you could not throw money out the window, but I just feel that Mike, you know, Mike Hogue being our buildings and grounds guy, he should be able to oversee this project to some degree.
they're the ones that did the last section that
I
we
was just gonna
replaced
ask
about
that.
300 feet. They did
Right.
that.
Okay.
And they said on the bottom in here that, that work can be completed on a time and materials not to exceed, proposed price. So were they gonna excavate till they found the leak and then just fix it? Is that what that says?
No, they're pretty sure they can't. The last time that this happened to us on that northern section toward the Franklin, they were initially going to do that. They excavated till they found the leak. But then the problem was they couldn't find pipe good enough to reattach to. They
Okay.
had to cut back. It ended up being almost 300 feet that they replaced.
Okay. So this could exceed, we could be going farther than 100, no, we would go
No,
180.
because it's going to that joint
To the
by the
vault?
to the bus garage,
Okay.
and they know that that's good. So I mean, they're basically replacing that whole section.
And at that time, would you abandon the steam to the manual arts building then?
It already has been.
I mean, would you bend it underground?
I believe that's been capped already. It has been.
In the
capped.
building or?
No, down in the ground.
Okay. And then where does the junior high get its steam from?
Same place. It comes out of that juncture.
Okay.
That has also been capped. Any other questions on that? Does anyone have opposed to ordering a pipe?
Well, it needs to be done.
I was just gonna say,
So
what
it needs to be
happens
done.
if it's not done?
Right. Well, you just waste energy. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, I mean,
you can see the steam. I mean, it's like you're down here in Virginia, you know, you see
mhm.
55 gallon barrels. I mean, I just saw that one where it's leaking pretty bad.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and that's,
Yeah, they have a pump down in that manhole trying to.
keep the water under control.
All right.
American made pipe, I hope?
I don't know. I guess I didn't
There-
I
ask.
want
that
to
question.
get into that controversy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
I can ask, I guess I didn't
yeah,
ask.
I mean, just give us that,
All right, we'll order the pipe. And then on Monday, you can approve that.
we in the consensus then with the board?
I'm just gonna order it.
All right.
You can accept the bid on Monday.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna order the
That's
pipe.
what we'll vote on.
Okay, boy, we don't have a lot of board members here, so I don't know how much of a conversation this next one's gonna be. But I did give you a sheet there just based on what I heard the last time we met, as far as combining some of the,
I don't think we have anything in there, on the community structure. I looked through this and I put a sign in.
Well, I've got
it was?
the list.
Oh, you know, what? I bet you it's
Oh,
on. No, I did.
I've got the list here too.
I bet you like that.
Yeah, I've got a list too. You know, this meeting was discussed at our last Monday meeting, so
Mhm.
everybody was aware
mhm.
that this meeting was taking place.
Mhm.
And that's why I kept reiterating that it's very important for people to attend these committee meetings, because not everybody hears things at the same time then,
Right?
and it just makes things really difficult to get anything accomplished
I agree.
when people are not attending.
And the only one we did not have in attendance, respectfully, so was Director Mulder. Yep.
Okay.
Like I said, I mean, there's,
Oh,
I-
they're combining.
I just combine them together based on what I heard the last time we met.
We usually talk about this stuff already.
I don't know, you wanna do it, you don't wanna do it, you wanna wait till the January, that's fine.
I mean, what are you asking of us, Jeff, which ones we want to be on?
Well, at first, I mean, do you wanna do this now, or do you wanna wait till January? I guess that'd be the first
Basically,
question.
what he's asking is, do we wanna have different board members participate in certain committees rather than doing it as a committee of the whole? And one of the benefits I see, I can see both sides. I
Mhm.
try and look at both sides for everything, but one of the things that I was thinking about is, you know, if we divvy these committees out based on what people want, you know, which committee they wanna be on or whatever, if we divvy these out, we would be able to get more done quicker, I think, than if we have to meet as a board of the whole
All the time.
and run into this kind of problem like we are today. So I think there is some benefit in divvying it out and people getting on committees that interest them. I don't know, what are your thoughts? Do you feel that way, or
I do,
do you?
I do.
Do you feel like we should make that change now, or do you want to continue through January as a committee of the whole?
How many meetings are we gonna have on these by the end of the year?
We have,
I mean, how many are we gonna have, Jeff, that you would foresee that we would have?
Lots
By the
of,
end of the
I mean, policy needs, we got work to do in policy.
yeah,
Okay,
we have a
For
safety
sure.
committee meeting scheduled
okay.
in October already.
Mhm.
The academic advisory staff development, there's probably gonna be 3 or 4 of those in the coming months. Budget and finance, there'd be a few of those. And I know, Georgia was planning another committee meeting, so.
So if we got scheduled meetings coming up and they're all smashed together like this, you know, if we get the dates, like the academic advisory committee meeting would be on this day, this day, and this day, you know, that maybe they won't be able to attend this day, but they can come to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're
To
saying.
schedule them in advance. You know, so we can,
We
so
could
then
do that.
no one says, well, I didn't, I forgot to write it down.
Yeah,
No, here's your piece of paper, these are when the meetings, you're on this
Mhm.
committee meeting, this is when it is, be there. You know, instead of like, you know, we come to these meetings and sometimes you write things down and then your board packet gets put in the car and then it goes from the car to the.
Well, to
wherever.
have like a set schedule
Mhm.
of them
Yeah.
would be nice, to have a set
A
schedule. I
predetermined.
mean, I work very much off of schedules.
Mhm.
you want me to,
And-
you want me to throw a preliminary schedule together?
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
great.
That'd be good.
And I think also what I have found helpful, at least for the safety committee, so I took over for Mark Chad, and then Mark Chad just kind of agreed, where he was on it before, and then Mark just agreed that he would kind of do backup to me, and so it's been helpful, like this coming week now, it's been on my schedule since our last one, I mean, it's for probably a couple months or whatever, and now I can't make it because of a work obligation that I can't get out of. So I emailed Mark to see if he can go in attendance for that, so I communicated then to Jeff and Justine that Mark will be there for the school board then, and I won't be in attendance for that. So just keeping that in mind too, if there's certain ones, you know, that we can have, if there's only one board member, if there's
Like have
always,
an alternate.
have an alternate board member just in case to be able to step in if someone cannot make it. That's kind of being kept in the loop of stuff is.
Mhm.
I'll throw maybe a 2-month schedule together for Monday's meeting.
Yeah, and
And as long as you're with your alternate, I don't wanna get into what happened before, where we put an alternate in and create all kinds of tension and all kinds of, so let's, you know,
yeah.
throw our alternates out there then as well. That if you can't attend, your alternate's gonna be Mark Chad, or if Brandy can't attend, her alternate's gonna be this person, if I can't attend. And
Yeah,
this way, there's not the controversy and the drama that was created by the last thing where you said.
oh, with negotiating,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yes, yep.
So, the other thing that I would like to know too, is if they have to be during school hours because there's teachers and whomever sitting on these sitting in on some of these, because it's difficult for me to come during the day.
So when you look at that schedule, you would recommend certain ones we know you would probably recommend for them to be during the day, but others that you're envisioning a little bit more community.
Yeah, there's some that, like policy and buildings and grounds and even budget and finance, those can be in the afternoon, but the staff development and negotiations and stuff like that, the staff are gonna not wanna come back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Jeff, I can also give you the dates and times for the athletic
Okay.
ones. They're in the handbook.
Okay.
In our handbook, when, how often they're held, so.
Very good. All right, so next one up is business office. I got a number of things for you there. We had talked a while back about putting them in separate contracts, so I drafted proposed separate contracts for each of them. And you also see some updated job descriptions for each of them in the office. And all those are based off of this document that I also put in there. I had Art, who's our financial consultant, come in and do an audit of work duties and try to divide them evenly and spread it out a little bit different, and so people have a little different name to them. And after they came, we sat as a group and talked about what parts of those would work and what parts of those didn't make sense, and kind of ironed it out amongst ourselves, and kind of came to the conclusion, and this was the final draft then, of the agreement between all the office staff and Mark and myself. And Angie's been helping me about that too. So that, all of this is reflected in the job descriptions that I have there for you. And then the other thing is, that I wanted to talk about tonight is our business manager. And I've been dragging my feet on this one because it's, and I want to make it very clear from the outset, this has no reflection on the individual himself. He's wonderful. I think we've handed him more than one person can possibly do. And that's why I've been dragging my feet on this agreement, because we're just not sure that this is the direction that we should go in. And I guess my recommendation to you, obviously we have to have some kind of agreement, but if we did a month to month for a while, to see how some of this other stuff pans out, because if ultimately that's the direction the district goes anyway, is a shared service agreement. We'd probably structure it different so that it could work. Right now, with two separate districts, it's very difficult for him to manage. It's difficult for one person to manage, I should say, not just him. And things are getting missed, and it's not a great situation for, the office staff here is frustrated because he isn't here as often as we had originally envisioned. And again, not his fault at all, just product of what happened. So I don't know, Art is telling me that there aren't any business managers out there, so even if we posted for one, we're probably not gonna find one. I don't know, any thoughts? We've given it almost a year now, not quite a year, to try to iron it out, and he's been wonderful, don't get me wrong. When I call him and I got something, he's great, but he just doesn't have the time to dedicate to us that we kind of need.
So it's not that
It's
it's
not-
just that he's just overloaded.
Overloaded.
It's overloaded,
Yeah.
it's not humanly possible.
Well, I wonder, I hate to drag this out so I guess I have a question, Jeff. How do you see, what would be the purpose in doing this as a month-to-month?
Because right now, we don't have a business manager.
Yeah.
But if we were able to somehow come up with a different arrangement that could let him out, we're not tied into it for a whole year.
Yeah, so I get that, so that's, I guess that's what I'm wondering is, so then do this month to month and advertise for a business manager again?
Well,
Or what are
and
you
then
envisioning?
the problem is, see, now this goes hand in hand with all these job descriptions they gave you. If we do find a business manager, I really don't need a bookkeeper anymore.
Because we restructured positions based on
Yeah.
this position, yeah.
So is the bookkeeper doing, my understanding was the bookkeeper was going to get some training from the business, well, from that individual that we're sharing, to do some of that stuff.
And some of that stuff, yes, has happened, but there's a lot of yearly things that come up that he doesn't have time to go through that necessarily, and all of a sudden we come up on a deadline, he's like, oh my God, I gotta get this done, so he just does it. And doesn't show our bookkeeper how it's being done. So we're falling behind on that training as well.
So what are our options?
So what do we, I mean, you hire a business manager, post it, and advertise for a business manager. I mean, so what is the cost versus having a shared agreement with Virginia versus hiring our own and keeping really
Well,
facilities?
Again, if we hire our own, then I don't need a bookkeeper. That eliminates that position. So
Okay.
between that position and what we're paying for the shared agreement, we probably could get a business manager.
Okay,
But we already have a bookkeeper in the position.
okay, but that's all business. I mean, if you hire a business manager and the bookkeeper goes away, that's just how business works.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean-
No, I'm just pointing it out though, that we have a
Yeah, that's all.
person in this position. It would be different if that position was still
Right.
vacant,
Right,
much easier than to maneuver those, changing those, but it's different when it is a filled position.
right.
And what he's saying is ARC is saying there's not a lot of business, there's not many business
Right.
managers out there, so.
But we could-
I mean, there's no
Yeah.
harm in advertising for it.
The other thing we can do is rent one. There are companies out there that, I mean, Mount Marion Bill for a long time rented one from a company called Wipfli, W-I-F-I-L.
So if you rent
They're
a
out
business-
of St. Cloud,
so if you rent a business manager, would you still need your bookkeeper then?
might not.
What are the costs associated with renting a bookkeeper versus,
Renting that.
I mean, renting a
Yeah.
business manager
I'd have to look
versus,
into that, because I haven't looked, I know the Northern Learning Center rents one too.
I mean, I think you should come, maybe throw some numbers at
Yeah,
what the
some numbers.
benefits, cost benefits and all that stuff in regards to that. I mean,
Is that something?
Yeah,
that
I mean, I
mean,
think
if we
we
need-
have to have potential options.
Right.
And the money tied to what these
Mhm.
different options are gonna look like, because
and what is
just
best
to
value?
say, we're gonna keep it as is and do this month to month, nothing's changing and
Right.
then what? You know, so I think we have to have a clear, I mean, just to keep having him getting buried isn't, I
It's
mean,
not
we.
healthy for him.
Yeah, I mean, if we know that there's an issue, we have to figure out what the solution is then to that. So, I mean, I agree on keeping the contract month to month now, because once we do identify what the solution is, then we can move on it. But I think trying to find what are different options that we could potentially have,
Okay, I'll try to put
and
that
then the
together
money
for
tied
you by Monday.
to it.
I mean, the best case
Okay.
scenario would be a hire a business manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I will,
Yeah.
I'll try to get
That
some
would have been the
numbers
best
together.
case scenario a year ago.
Well,
I know,
I'll try to get that together for you on Monday's meeting. All right, so next up
Okay.
we have,
so that being said, if you hired a business manager, then what happens to the bookkeeper? Where does that position go?
we would.
I mean, does that get absorbed by the business manager?
Yeah, the position one, yeah.
Okay.
And one more thing, because we have all these job descriptions in front of us here. So everybody is okay with ARC's recommendations, they're good with these job descriptions, feel it's pertinent to their positions?
I feel like
Yeah.
there was agreement, yeah.
Okay.
On these jobs here, Jeff, you know, you got payroll clerk, benefits coordinator, human resources executive assistant, human resources specialist, and we got bookkeeper. What are these positions being paid at today? What are they making today? I mean, what are the salaries for those positions? I don't know.
One of them doesn't have a contract at all,
Okay. What is it?
and she's making,
Which one is that?
our human resource specialist.
Okay,
We hired her at a secretary's wage
okay, and then,
temporarily until we came up with a contract.
okay, and what is that, what are we paying that individual?
It's $29.13 an hour, I believe it is.
What is that a year?
Huh?
What is that a year?
No, I'm calculator.
Times 2,080.
Maybe I'll- $60,590.
$6,590?
$60,590.40.
So we're overpaying that one.
Okay, so this human resources executive assistant, I mean, if you're paying her that, paying that individual that much, why would she sign a contract for less money?
No benefits to what she's got right now. There are no benefits. I mean, we just hired her at an hourly wage.
Oh, okay.
And you're not 100% positive it's $29.13,
I'm
right?
pretty sure it is, but I'm not positive.
So she gets no benefits now,
Yeah.
and then she would get benefits with this, and how much are the costs of the benefits associated?
It would depend on what she takes, but could be as high as
So-
20,000.
So it's 53,184, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and what's the maximum that'd be added to that for benefits?
Benefits.
The maximum, if she took, if that individual, I don't know if it's a he or she, but. Then we'll have this discussion with the next other ones as well.
$69,484.
That's for which one?
Human resource specialist.
So you got 53,184, okay, and then that would go up to, how much would the increase in our benefits would be, 18,000?
16,300.
16,000? So the difference between, that'd be a $9,000 raise.
If she takes the benefits.
That's pretty healthy raise.
But, well,
I mean, it's a pretty healthy raise for a year, $10,000. I mean, if she takes the benefits, you know. And then it would be the same for the rest of these too?
no. Our payroll clerk had a previous contract,
Okay,
and then it would be a 2%, about a 3% raise.
okay, so that position's getting paid, well, 54,187. What is that person making right now?
For payroll, are we talking payroll clerk?
We're talking, payroll right now.
For 2017 to 2018, 54,187.
Yeah, but what is that
what's on
position
here.
getting paid now? He's looking it up. It's is that position being paid hourly, Jeff, or?
No, it's a salary contract,
Okay.
50,180.
I'm
But there's
01.
there's duties added to that position with them.
Okay, so 50,180, and what's the total benefits package, or there's no
Same.
benefits with it?
Yeah.
There, right now, she's the person that gets
16,300.
benefits? Huh?
16,300.
16, so that brings it up to 66,480. So that's the difference of, the devil's number. So it's 66,000, so that position would go up from 54,000 to 54,187 to 66,000.
No, because she's getting benefits now.
There's no increase in the benefit, the benefits is
So
already existing.
she's making 50,000 now,
Salary.
salary with benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I asked. Okay,
Which the benefits is the 16.
so we're subtracting that, so it's, but this benefits would be 16,000.
I don't know what you're doing, Bill.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out the dollar amount increase over, so if it's 40, if it's 50,000, then it must be somewhere around 34,000 she's making, correct?
No, the 50,000 is wage.
Okay, wage,
The
then you,
16,000 benefit package is separate.
Right, that's what I asked
The 50,000 is
you.
wage.
Okay, so now you're up to 66.
And what you're seeing right here is wage.
Right.
54,187 is wage.
Minus
So to
benefit
see,
package.
to see what their, to see
No,
what
not
their,
minus.
what their pay
No.
is,
The 54,187 is your base wage,
is the
right?
wage.
Okay, then
So if you
add-
wanna see
then
what
you add
their,
health and welfare
but if
onto
you
that.
wanna see what their
So
raise
that-
is,
yeah.
subtract the 54,187 minus the 5180. And that is their annual raise, and then divide that by the 2080, and then that's, but that's
I don't
their,
know.
that's their wage raise.
Okay, so if you're, all right, so
They're
I'm just trying to
obligated,
figure
again.
out these dollar amounts, okay? What, you know what I'm trying to get at, right? You guys know what I'm trying to get at? Just basically, what kind of increase, you know, if you go up here to 54,187, then you're gonna add 16,480 to it, because this is the wage without the benefits, correct? The 54,187 is the wage without the benefits, correct? Okay, the benefits are 16,480. Okay, so you gotta add the 16,480 to the 54,000. That's your total benefits package. Okay.
Sounds right.
That's not changing from one year to the next.
The benefits package isn't.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I know, but when you add those two together,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
that's what you're actually making, total benefits package. So if that person is making 50,180 with benefits, you said?
You add the benefits.
Right, okay, so that brings up to 66,000.
Yeah,
Okay, now if you take the 66,000, okay, 66,000, then you add the 54,187 to the 1680, you're up to, you know, $70,000. I mean, so it's a $4,000 increase in, from just putting her into a contract.
But there's, you're not necessarily comparing apples to apples there, because the job that she was in making 50,180 is now different. There's added duties to that.
Okay.
well, and they were in a
Well, I'm
contract
just trying-
before too. I mean, so it's not putting them into a contract, they had a contract before too.
Right. Well, I'm just looking, you know, with the dollar amount of increase, I mean, like I said, when it comes to dollars, you gotta be careful, you know, you gotta make sure you're doing due diligence and making sure you're making the right decisions, and that's what I look at. I mean, you look at the increase of this one here, I mean, it's a big increase.
Which one?
It'd be the human resources specialist. Big increase in what they're making now. But, you know. All right.
Any other questions?
Well, the bookkeeper might go away if you find a business manager, so we won't even discuss that. Okay,
Good?
I'm done.
You're up.
Okay, so I think it was 2 weeks ago that we were here talking about assistant coaches. When a new head coach is hired, and say it's the head coach only who resigns or retires, whether or not they have a say in who their assistant and or JV coaches will be. For basketball, it was pretty easy. We had a new basketball everyone resigned or retired at the same time, so all of that was open. So we had a really good process. It was neat to see the interviews and how the head coach had say in the interviews and had say in who would be selected under him. But for hockey is the scenario we talked about 2 weeks ago it was. We only had the head coach, Dean Edstrom, resign and not the assistant in JV underneath that. So we had talked about it, and Angie and I strongly felt that a new head coach hire should have say in who their assistant in JV are, but we weren't sure if that was, Jeff had said it wasn't past practice at Eveleth-Gilbert, so then they invited me here to talk at the study session, which I don't know if it is board policy anywhere, if it's something you want to be involved in. Just being a new activities director here, I just wanted to come forward and kind of gauge where you're at, or if you have any say in it. And then 2 weeks ago, you directed me to do a survey monkey to all head coaches, and if you look, I just passed it out. I believe it was 6 people who responded, 6 of the 10. 3 I have talked to, 1 did not respond. They all said yes, you can read the question, and then other optional, someone checked because it said, would you, if you were recently hired new head coach, would you want the opportunity to select your assistants? And they checked other input, would like to have input in the hiring process rather than being like the lone selector of it. So I strongly feel that they should. Again, I don't know if this is something Angie, Jeff and I on our own can come up with, and maybe it's not a policy, but I strongly feel that they should, being that it's a, go ahead.
Sorry.
I feel like you should be involved because our past practices said that no, we don't. So if we're gonna change that, that has to be a policy change, which is, I don't know, so. That's why.
Is there currently a policy that says
There
that?
is no policy on it.
And I think
But
that
there's a
if we're
practice
going.
in place.
And we checked, there isn't in like the coach's handbook or anything either.
I just think that in order to keep from people having questions on how things work, I think that having a policy would be the best idea. So going forward, everybody knows what to expect.
And where would that policy be placed? I'm just learning how everything works, so I just wanna.
Well, the policy committee would have to come up with whatever you guys recommend. If you guys are making a recommendation, would make a policy on that for how, because I guess, let me back up. I'm fumbling over my words. I don't feel like the school board members should necessarily be involved in like the selection of, we shouldn't be involved in the selection of applicants or who's interviewing for these positions. I don't feel that that's our duty, but I do feel like the policy is where we would come in. That's where we would give input, so that, like I said, everybody knows what to expect going forward. I don't know if I'm explaining that right.
No, I agree with you. I mean,
I just,
we're not asking you to sit down in a 7th grade basketball coach interview, but we just need to know, I mean, do we wipe the slate clean when we hire a head coach, or do we not? Do we keep people that are there?
I mean, what do you think would be the best recommendation, because,
I'm opposed to it, so I'm leaving it up to our.
you're opposed to wiping the slate clean?
I don't like it.
And
But she's the activities director, so I'm keeping my mouth shut.
what's your thought, Nancy?
I think they should all resign when the head coach resigns, and they get to pick.
And
Because
Yeah.
the chance that they get hired again is, they still probably will get hired again,
I see
for the
I see
position.
both sides,
So-
because I do see, past practice here has been if a head coach left, that the people under them would be staying. It's like assumed that they stay. And in the past, a lot of applicants have been the school teachers. People that are within the school, they're stepping up for that additional duty.
which is
For
a
the-
good scenario,
For the
yeah.
stipend and everything, and they're familiar with kids, and they're, forming relationships with the kids that they see every day, making better bonds, whatever. I don't wanna chase away people from the school district from wanting to apply for those positions. But yet at the same time, I can see a new person coming in wanting to have somebody that they mesh with. And that may not always be the case where they're coming in as the head coach and the assistant or whatever, where they butt heads. I don't wanna see that happen either. So I can see both sides of it, and that's kind of why I asked if you would go to the head coaches and see what their feelings are about that. And if they're saying that they would like the opportunity to choose who their assistants are, if they're saying that, I guess that, I don't know, that makes a difference for me. But how many, yeah, I think this is important too.
And we talked, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
That we were here? 2 weeks ago about other schools, because I had already talked to Angie and I had contacted other athletic directors in the area, and they all, pretty much it was either, depending, I mean, some gave different circumstances, depending on every situation, but most of them, I shouldn't say most, probably half, when they know the head coach is resigning or retiring, then they would open up all the positions right away. And then some wait until the new coach is in place, and then they let the new coach look, either talk, interview, casual conversation with the people that are in place, and then they decide whether they want the positions opened, and then they'd have a say in the interview committee. So some do it before, some after. Those are all examples of the schools that do open up all positions whenever there's a head opening.
So you had, so there were 10 head coaches that you
Yes.
contacted.
One
6
did not
the survey.
respond.
1 did not respond, 3 you spoke to.
3 I spoke to. One was traveling out of state and said, I don't have access to the email. She said that she is all for that, agreed coaches should be involved in the hiring process, maybe not the final say, but wants to be involved in the interview process. And then the other one texted me that they think the newly hired coach should have a say in his or her staff, including the assistants. And then one of them had texted me a big long message after saying there really wasn't a place for opinions in there, so she just told me why it would be a positive. Like, and some of her examples were everything from fundamental instruction to dealing with behaviors and stuff. We want to be on the same page and have a similar philosophy. I think it would be good. So that's just everything you asked for.
And that's, I guess, that second response of whoever said that is kind of where my thought process is, I see both sides of it and everything, but I can also see how difficult it may be for the kids in a program to have coaches that are in conflict, or coaches that have different philosophies and different styles and different things that are not getting worked out or whatever. So that would be my biggest concern on just how that is handled. And I mean, one would assume and hope that it would be handled in the best way and in the best light, but if it's not, I think that could create some issues and triangulation and other things that don't necessarily have to happen. Okay.
So as the activities director, your recommendation would be,
I do feel that they
they
should have
should
say.
know. Okay.
Input, maybe not actually select the person, but that's my feeling, my thoughts.
Okay.
And
I didn't know that wasn't past practice until Jeff told us, I don't think that's past practice here, and I couldn't. We've been here a while, and I don't know, Angie probably hasn't been here long enough, maybe she's seen coach turnover, I'm not sure. But where just the head coach resigns or step down or retires.
So, Angie, do you feel like it would, making this decision, do you think it would deter any staff members from applying for these jobs, or do you think it'll have any effect on the staff that are
I don't think
head
so.
coaches or anything?
I don't think so, but I mean, as soon as one gets affected, it won't be an issue.
But if they know the policy, say, change the policy, they would know the policy.
That's why I'm thinking we need a policy, because then everybody knows what to expect.
Right, so if the head coach resigns, that takes place, you can be out of a job,
But you'd be in the applicant pool for, and that's the piece too, is, I mean, the likelihood that you would be, I mean, you're coming in already having skills and already having been in that position and everything else, so there's a lot of things, I mean, but at that point, they probably are looking at personalities and philosophies and different things that, just to make sure that it works well.
So what happens, so if the JV coach, or say the assistant coach resigns, and of course the head coach can bring in another assistant, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
assume so, yeah.
Okay, and then if the head coach resigns, then everybody below him is done, but those people have the right, or not, have the right, they have the first right of refusal if our policy allows that. That if they want to come back in and apply for that position, you know what I'm saying? So if they're assistant coach and they want to apply for the head coach position, they should, not be, they have that opportunity.
Well,
Because that's slot would open, right?
Anyone can apply for
Right.
head coach.
And
Opportunity to apply.
we should consider that, that,
So that's
The
what
board
happened with
policy
boys
should-
basketball.
right.
Sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
No, but that's the way policy should be written, to kind of reflect of that positive statement in there, instead of, that they have the opportunity to be hired, but then again, on the other side, as you said, Brad, you get a head coach that we hire and they don't like anybody that was from the existing
Mhm.
coaching staff, I mean, I don't know.
You said that's what happened with basketball?
Yeah, with basketball, so the head in JV retired at the same time, and then when the varsity and JV job opened, Adam Rowan, who was the junior high coach, applied for the head coaching position, and that's who was named the head coach. But then, so then that opened up his junior high position too, so he had junior high open and the JV still, so. And then we ran interviews recently, so. So that one was a scenario exactly like you were mentioning.
Just come up with something.
If both of you are making that recommendation that you would like to see, the head coach have the opportunity to select their assistants or JV coaches, if you're making that recommendation and all the head coaches are saying that they want to have that ability, then I guess my position would be that we need to have a policy that says when a head coach resigns, that it opens up all positions.
I would do the same.
Okay.
What else you got? Anything?
Yes, you had also put on there, I was looking to have a meeting with Angie and Jeff about elementary students in junior high sports. And just to give you a little bit of a background, for swimming, girls swimming, tennis, maybe boys swimming too, I'm not sure. You would probably know of track.
Yep,
Um,
softball,
oh, softball has had them too? Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
cross-country.
Cross country, I knew they don't this year. But, so Minnesota State High School League, my thought was that they governed 7th through 12th grade, no matter what. They only govern 7th through 12th graders if they are on a sophomore squad, a B team, a junior varsity, or a varsity. They do not govern junior high sports. So at first, when I came, I was kind of worried that we were having 5th and 6th graders participate in junior high activities, and that is frowned upon in the State High School League. So we did some research, and ultimately the research was really kind of confirmed, I guess, after there was a little thing through swimming where one coach called the State High School League on another team saying they have 6th graders swimming in their JV meets. So then we met at Valentini's during the region Minnesota State High School League meetings with the eligibility, head of eligibility, associate director, and assistant associate, I think he's called, about the scenario, and then they gave us recommendations of what to do. It wasn't at our school, but I was just in on it because I knew we had the same scenario. So they said they do not govern junior high swimming, so then we rearranged the way we do our swim meets. Junior high meets or junior high games or anything cannot be run the same time as a varsity. So we have a little junior high mini meet now, we changed it like 2 weeks ago, 4:30 to 5, and then we swim the junior varsity and varsity. So no 6th graders or 5th graders, anyone below 7 cannot participate on a junior varsity team or in a junior varsity meet. So we changed that, now everything's legal. The question is swimming, I know swimming here, probably back to Gordy Rodby, if not earlier, because I swam, I think when I was in 5th grade, I swam like 5th through 8th grade. 5th and 6th were able to compete here. Now it's down to 4th grade. We had a question about a 3rd grader this year. We have questions from Marquette parents calling and saying, can my 3rd or 4th or 5th grader swim? Where
Competition.
yeah, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we had many conversations, and the problem is when 7th and 8th graders are traveling to and from events, if they are not on the JV or varsity team or a B team or a sophomore team, which we don't have that here, that's more up in the cities where there's bigger school enrollments, but they would be covered, those students would be covered under the insurance that we pay through the State High School League every year. But 7th, 8th, and even some 9th graders for C teams that are on a school bus traveling aren't covered under Minnesota State High School League, so then I would assume our school district, if there's students here, that takes over if there was a bus accident or something. So I just felt taking Marquette students who aren't Eveleth-Gilbert students under, that wouldn't be covered under our insurance, riding our buses and stuff. And honestly, if they were in 7th through 12th grade, we would need a co-op with Marquette for them to play. So the question at hand and what we've talked about for a long time, it works for swimming, having the 5th and 6th graders. For tennis, we don't have junior high tennis, but I talked to our tennis coach and they just have JV and varsity meets. There aren't big enough numbers in tennis to have younger kids compete. I didn't know about the softball. Anyways, since I'm new, I polled all the schools again. Greenway allows 6th graders to play. Mesabi East has 6th graders in swimming, 6th graders in basketball, some other sports. We actually just talked, like, we say all 5th and 6th graders can play, but they can only be on junior high teams. Or if we didn't, Angie and I were just talking about our 7th grade boys basketball might only have a handful of people, not enough to field a 7th grade team. Do we then make the 7th graders, if they don't have enough to field a team, we're not gonna say, sorry guys, you can't play this year. Do we make them join the 8th graders and just play an 8th grade schedule? Or at that point, do we pull some 6th graders up and say, these 6th graders are gonna fill the spot and do 7th grade basketball? So it is case to case, I would say every year. Like, I don't feel a 6th grade boy should come and play junior high football. I could be wrong, I've never played football, maybe there is a big kid who's strong enough mentally and physically to handle it, but just asking you, looking, if you are interested, we were talking, if that is something that needs to be in policy too. Because we might have a 5th and 6th grader swimming, and then we might have a 5th grader come to us and say they want to play junior high baseball. Swimming's kind of individual, even though there's a team score. Baseball is more team. I don't know if it's appropriate to have a 5th grader playing baseball. It's just kind of me coming in new and seeing all of this unfolding, and where do you draw the line? I'm not going to let a 4th grader play football. There are 4th graders swimming this year.
I know for volleyball, back when I was coaching, we did have to, just because of the lack of numbers, we did have to ask 6th graders to come up to play junior
So for
high.
the 7th grade level, okay,
Yeah.
to make a team that
Yeah.
year. And it worked. How did you select 6th graders?
By interest.
Okay.
Whoever was interested in playing.
Yeah.
They came out.
In the Minnesota State High School League said, I asked the director of eligibility, I said, it seems so silly that we're making them pay this big fee, or, I mean, it doesn't, they should pay if they're paying junior high, but then fill out all the paperwork. Obviously, they need a physical, but then there's other packets, like the Minnesota State High School League brochure. I said, if you're not governing them, why do they fill this out? And they said, no, you should, it's good practice, has good information in there. It's good practice for when they get to 7th grade. They should fill out all the same paperwork so the parents are confused when they do get into 7th grade and have a chance to do JV. But there's some sports that it just can't happen. Soccer, I just talked to Jim James over at Mesabi East, their AD, they don't have junior high soccer. So there is no option for a younger kid to come out. And really, sometimes when teams travel together, we were just talking about, do we really wanna put fourth graders on a bus with seniors?
Yeah.
No,
Right.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want, I have 2 kids in 4th grade now, and I don't know that I'd want them traveling. Not saying that, it's just stuff they talk about, I don't know, there's just
Yeah.
different ways to look at all of
Maturity
it.
level.
And I, at some point, would, and whether it is, I can make the decision myself, whether it's something, this is why Jeff invited me here to talk about it. If it's something I just have to make the decision on my own, or if this is something you have to be part of.
So how does that gonna affect, excuse me, how's it gonna affect, I mean, because the governing body, I think through K through 6 is the joint powers, am I not right? Is that gonna have any conflict of bringing?
That's another thing, you worry, we just talked about that, pulling these 6th graders, and now they don't have a 6th grade basketball team.
Right,
And you don't wanna affect what they're doing, I mean, we have a pretty strong elementary joint powers, we have flag football, we have all of that, sorry, you were gonna speak.
I'm saying,
I am
Okay, I
very
disagree.
appreciative that you are coming in and digging all this up, and I think it just highlights why we needed this position, so I'm just very thankful for that, so
Thank you, yeah, I
thank
just
you,
want,
Jeff and administration, on pushing it forward and bringing it to us to be able to even vote on. I love that, and I love that this is even being looked at to see on what the issues may be and what are ways that we can maybe, how to handle them, because I do see that there could be potential issues that could come about when someone wants to play in a sport that may be higher up if it's not offered in 5th or 6th grade. And they may say, I want to join it in the junior high level then. And where we may have various reasons why we might not think that that might be appropriate, or we wouldn't want to open it up for different reasons.
and I looked through our handbook as well, and there isn't a certain grade cutoff. Yeah, it's a hard one.
I mean, but you know, and to bring them up like that, I mean, I hate to see like, well, they brought up a 6th grader or a 5th grader to play in junior high basketball, and now my kid gets no play time.
There's
You
truth
know,
to that
even though
too.
that 6th
Yeah, you
grader is
can't
really,
please
really
everyone.
good, you know?
Yep. And I would see no need to
But I'm
bring
in it to
them
win it.
up unless we needed
It's a
the
numbers
numbers.
issue.
If it's a
Right.
numbers issue,
Okay.
then we would need it. And at that point, if you only have 6th, 7th grade basketball players and you need 1 or 2 more and you get 2 parents to agree to it, well, then you do that, and then I think it's fair when everyone agrees that they aren't looked at as a 6th grader. At that point, they're on the 7th grade basketball team, so then I mean, in junior high, everybody should be playing anyways, just to keep them interested and rotating them in, but it's a hard one, and I can see now in my position, I have lots of parents calling, and they are so eager to put their son and daughter in something, and that's great, they don't want them at home playing video games, but where do you draw the line? We had many 4th graders today, or this year, and now 3rd graders. Pretty soon, a 2nd grade parent is gonna call and say, well, why can't they? I mean, because really, they probably could, because Minnesota State High School League does not govern junior high activities. But most junior high activities are 7th and 8th graders.
my concern with the whole thing, what I've witnessed over the last 5 years, because this is actually fairly unique to of any district in northern Minnesota as far as allowing those elementary kids to even participate in practices. And I think we see lots of big numbers of kids in that area that do. And I think it falsely inflates the number that we think we have participating in these sports. And these kids are burning out early and they don't participate by the time they're in 8th and 9th grade anymore. And you look at the number of people that we have participating in these sports in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, 12th grade, I mean, it's minimal. I mean, they're barely staying afloat. I mean, we have 7th graders. Go over to the junior high, look at all the 7th graders wearing letter jackets. I mean,
Times are changing.
it's not because they're varsity level athletes. I mean, it's out of necessity, and I really think we're doing these kids a big injustice. I mean, we have a rec department that's designed for programs of that age level. I mean, it is completely inappropriate to have a 5th grader swimming against an 8th grader, in my opinion.
And our school district is supporting and, you know,
They are.
helping out financially with them to run these programs.
And if that doesn't work, I mean, even with swimming, I mean, start a community ed program or something, but they shouldn't be running the same paces as a seventh and eighth grader. They just shouldn't, I mean, we're burning them out. I mean, like I said, by the time they get into where they should be in JV, we hardly have any kids participating in any sport. Hockey and football are probably the only two exceptions. I mean, we can hardly keep some of these teams afloat. You look at girls' basketball and boys' basketball, there aren't any kids in it anymore. And there were almost 100 of them when they were in elementary. So I don't know. I'm very opposed to having these kids participate in anything.
But you know, that brings up the question about basketball. I just know that sitting through some of the basketball meetings on the boosters, that the biggest problem that they had with the K through 6 basketball program is that these kids would come up, and then once they got to 7th grade and entered the high school level, that what they were being taught down here is not what they're gonna be taught up here. It was close, but it was a different teaching staff.
I get you there.
I mean, Lenny made him run and Reedham made him, you know, free throws, and it was like, you know, I mean, it was the teaching style down at that level is different than when you get up at the high school level.
I get you there. I mean, I'm just talking to Spencer Honey the other day about it, because he's a girls' basketball coach in Virginia. I mean, those are the people that run their youth programs. They don't have a rec program like we do.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and the rec program that we have is fairly unique as well. I mean, other schools don't. They're not involved in it. So, I don't know. To me, it's just a huge mess. It really is. Which, why I have passed the buck off to her and she can fix it. But I don't know.
When you mentioned about the younger student athletes participating in practice with older ones, that is an absolute no-no. That's one thing we talked about at Valentini's. They said you can't run junior high activities along during, you know, like a varsity meet or a junior varsity. You can run them opposite days, you can run them before or after the varsity JV is concluded, but they said you also cannot have anyone under 7th grade participating with, like, practicing with JV and varsity. And right now, we're probably running into that in a few of our sports. I mean, we've already put a clamp on it in the last 2 weeks, but, so you cannot have those younger kids practicing with junior varsity or varsity.
Which
So-
direction do you want to go with this?
I would love, I'm sorry. So I really am interested with what Jeff had to say, and you can see the trend in kids dropping off shortly after the junior high years or whatever. And so just for a future project or whatever, not that you don't have enough to do, but a future project, I would be very interested in trying to figure out if we can see why that is, whether it's surveying some of our athletes and then surveying them at another time, annual ones, but.
Well, I can give an example of my own child. Mine was involved in everything: curling, basketball, volleyball, plays. And for my child, I think it just ultimately came down to, it was like the burnout. You can't do 6 things and be, doing something every single night of the week, and it came down to having to choose which sports are your favorite sports. And so it might just be something
But
like.
if she doesn't participate in those six different things, they die.
Right,
I mean, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, there's
Right.
the truth to that too.
right.
And Jeff had mentioned the community ed, maybe having meets like volleyball, and you might know from your daughter being there for 5th, 6th grade, they pay, I don't know if it's $30 or $40, whatever it is, and they run volleyball, joint powers volleyball during the volleyball season. So then they're kind of in, the varsity girls are coming to help practice, I think the coaches come once in a while, Lori runs it, and then they set up play dates with other schools.
Yep.
So they pay a lot less, they still get to practice, not quite as much as you would if you were on a junior high team, but then you go to these, like they were in Chisholm for a tournament I saw.
Yeah.
And Perry has an awesome, just speaking on swimming, just because that's happening right now, I know he had a good, I believe it was run through community ed last spring, and he had tons of swimmers. If you could have that in the fall, and then go to it, have mini meets and stuff for the younger students, it would be a win-win for everyone. And I don't know if basketball must have all that as well, so.
Well, I definitely think we need to be going by whatever Minnesota State High School League says we have to be doing.
Yeah, for the
For sure.
practices and stuff. Yeah, because otherwise the coach cannot, I mean, they cannot participate, coach in postseason, that's the punishment. So it was good that they got that out there to all of, a lot of the smaller schools to put a
So
stop
do
to
we
it.
need to have a policy on that? Do other schools have policies on that?
Well,
I don't mean, I don't know.
Or it could be an athletic handbook maybe.
Yeah, I can use it
Well,
in athletic.
Just get in the handbook so that we know.
I think, I mean, if, the one thing that it has to get sorted out is if it's being either it's allowed or it's not. And if it is allowed, how is it being decided if it's allowed? Because right when it is on an individual basis is right when there ends up being issues with favoritism or with something, and I don't want that. I want it very black and white.
Because that's the way it's always been.
Yeah, I've noticed that when I came in, so.
Black and
yeah.
white. So if we're gonna have a policy, then we have a policy. So if we're gonna say, yes, it's allowed, then what is the criteria of when it's allowed? And that has to be black and white. And I feel like if we can't clearly get there, then it shouldn't be allowed. Then it's just really not worth it. Because
I'm with you.
I mean,
like
if
black
it's,
and
I
white.
mean, I'm thinking it's very few numbers that we're talking about, and I just, I mean, what's the
could add up, I
rationale
think.
or reason of why it can't wait until 7th grade? I mean, I feel like we have an abundance of offerings.
Yeah, I think it's just been that way for a long time here,
So.
I mean, from as long as I can remember.
It's unlike anything I've ever seen. I've been in 10 different schools, and I've never seen it like this before.
I feel like we have a lot of offerings for the most part for,
Yeah, the joint powers is really
Kids.
strong too, I think,
Mhm.
for the elementary students, so.
All right, anything else for the good of the group?
Do we need to vote on this? Do we need to vote on, the head coach thing on Monday? Do we need to vote on that?
on having a
Well,
policy.
have
Well,
a
that would be a
policy.
change in the handbook. I guess we could revise the handbook.
Just put it, the language in the
Confuse
handbook.
looking face.
For the policy, you were wanting a
Yeah.
policy on it for the head
But it would,
coach?
it would go into the handbook,
Okay,
And then the handbook needs to be approved.
yeah.
okay.
If there's an adjustment to the handbook, yeah.
So you guys will look at making the changes and then just bring those back to the board for approval anyways?
Yep.
Okay.
So only the few of us sitting here will know what.
Exactly.
So well,
It's
then
actually
that
pretty-
has to wait then till next Monday to be approved before, just because winter sports are starting, so I really wanna get going on it.
Monday. All right, I'm done.
Okay, is that
You
all
done?
we have?
Okay.
I'm done. Our session is adjourned.